Well, last week we were studying the book of 2 Samuel and we finished it. It only took us 8 months. Right?
Is that all?
Now this time I wrote down the date. Okay, so we're going to start the book of 1 Kings this week. Okay, and I've been studying it, and I've been studying it intently for the last, let's see, when did I start? I wrote it down. Let me go here. Yeah, I started the study on 7:02, and now it's 9:04. So we're actually going to begin teaching it. Now I handed out a handout. Some of you may have gotten it on the outline of 1 Kings.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it says here that the word kings in Hebrew is melakim. Okay, melakim, and I have an outline, and the outline. What I do, I teach the entire book, and when we do it word for word and line for line. So I made myself an outline, and that way you can keep up with me, which is hard to do. Okay, now it says here that 1 Kings is a single book. Its division was simply for sake of convenience. Even the location for the division is somewhat arbitrary and is divided in the middle of the ministry of Elijah. In other words, what they're saying in the original book of Kings, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, was only one book. And they split it apart. Okay?
So First Kings and First and Second Kings were actually one book?
Were actually one book. In the Greek, in the Hebrew, the book is called Melakim. In the Greek, it's called Basileion, which means kingdoms. Okay? And you can see here on my outline, you have the Greek and the English equivalent. The Greek title was the first book of Kingdoms, which was 1 Samuel. We've already studied that one. Second book of Kingdoms was 2 Samuel, which we've studied that one. The third book of Kingdoms is 1 Kings, which we're fixing to study, and the fourth book of Kingdoms is the 2 Kings, or the fourth book of Kingdoms in the Septuagint. Okay, those of you who like to study. In the Latin Vulgate. I'm talking about different versions in the Bible from way past, so we kind of figure out how we got these books in our hands. I like to know how I got this book in my hand. And the Latin Vulgate was the Liber Regum Tertius et Quartus.
Tertius is all I got.
Okay. Liber, it's written down there on the page. Okay, it's written down on the page. The author is unknown. Jewish tradition says it was Jeremiah being the author. And I noticed different styles of writing as we read the book. I believe it was written by a bunch of different people, and that probably Jeremiah put all the things together. Our English Bibles have the fourfold division. Of course, we just said that. 1 Kings records the death of David, the reign of Solomon, the building of the temple, the death of Solomon, the division of the kingdoms under Rehoboam and Jeroboam, and the history of the two kingdoms to the reign of Jehoram over Judah and Ahaziah over Samaria, including the mighty ministry of Elijah. The book is in 7 different parts. Now, y'all can keep that for your records. We're going to go ahead and get started here. So, beginning in the book of 1 Kings, starting in verse 1. This is the last days of David. And it is also a continuum of 2 Samuel. Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heed. Wherefore his servants said unto him, Let therefore be sought for my lord the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heed. So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not. Okay, we're going to start talking about this. Here you got an old warrior,
Right.
who's beaten down in years from war and conflict.
Right.
How old do you think he was?
36.
Huh?
30.
No, he's 7 years old at this time. Okay.
Wait, what?
70. He's
Okay,
70
I thought I heard you
years
say
old.
7 for a second.
He's 70 years
They
old.
grow up fast.
Boy, they grow up fast. Yeah. Okay. Have you ever not been able to get warm?
Yes.
I know anybody that's been a hunter before, they know what it is to be cold.
Amen.
That's why I don't like hunting very much. No, I like hunting, it's all right. I like fishing better though. But when you get older, I think it's harder to get warm. I notice old people get colder easier than younger people. So the solution to this problem of an old man being shivering and cold all the time, we find in, somebody look up Ecclesiastes 4:11 for me. We have a solution to this. It's a medical treatment of the day. And that's why I think it's good.
For what?
4:11. Ecclesiastes 4:11.
Again, if two lie together, then they have peace. But how can one be warm alone?
Okay, so in Ecclesiastes, the author says that two are better than one. And I know any of you that are married, you end up, one of you pushes off one side of the bed because he's too hot or too cold, and the other one pushes the other way. It just seems that way. But I'm glad when you get to be old, you have somebody to hang on to, whether they push you away or not, Of course, I've been married to that lady for a long, long time. Okay, so the medical treatment for David was to get him a young virgin to lay with him. Not to have any kind of relationship with him. It was just to keep him warm. That was what it was for.
Right.
Okay? And you'll see that in verse 3 that they found a girl named Abishag, and her name means father of error. Now you'll find out if you go to my Sunday school classes, I look up all these words. They may not mean anything, but I think they're so interesting. Sometimes they do mean a lot.
Right.
And, this one, her father. Her name means father of error. And basically, this young girl was a nurse. In verse 4, it says that she cherished and ministered to him, but he knew her not. So she was truly a nurse who was very close. Okay? All right, so that brings us to verse 5. Verse 5 says, and this is where Adonijah plots against David. And you got to realize, David's on his deathbed, really. He's not really ruling the kingdom at this time. He's just there in Jerusalem, and they're taking care of him. And anybody that has elderly parents you took care of, that's a job in itself.
Amen.
Okay? Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time in saying, Why hast thou done so? And he also was very goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest, and they followed Adonijah and helped him. But Zadok the priest, and Benaniah the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei, and Rai, the mighty men which belonged to David, were not with Adonijah. And Adonijah slew sheep and oxen and fat cattle by the stone Ot, Zeholeth, which is by Enrogel, called all his brethren, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. Okay. Now,
You kicked it with the names now.
what's that?
I said you did really good with all those names.
Thank you. I've been reading them a couple times. I practice when I'm at home. I'm not kidding.
I'm not either.
Adonijah's name means worshiper of Jehovah. And it says here that he was the son of Haggith, which means festive. He was the fourth son of David. And he was the brother of Absalom. And Absalom was a very fair, good-looking man that had real long hair. You remember the story? He got his hair caught in the branches, and they killed him.
Right.
But everybody liked him because he was a cute guy.
Sometimes.
This guy's a cute guy, too.
Right.
And they seem to like him. And he makes a coup against his
Dad.
His dad, yeah. Well, especially with his dad is sickly in bed, He takes advantage of the situation. How many people have you known when somebody's dying and takes advantage of the situation?
Or right after the funeral.
Oh, I know. I see families get just pulled apart because one person says, well, that could be mine.
Yeah.
All mine. Instead of sharing it with my brothers and sisters, right?
Yeah.
But there's a problem here. It says David had not displeased him, which means he didn't tell him not to do it. He didn't tell him to do it. He didn't reprimand him. And,
You know what mine says on verse 6?
yeah.
It says, now his father, King David, had never disciplined him at any time, even by asking, why are you doing that?
I've never disciplined his child. If you never discipline a child, you know what's going to happen. You know, they turn out to be brats.
Yeah.
You know, this country of ours telling us we can't discipline our children. We're going to create brats,
We already have.
adult brats. We have created a whole bunch of adult brats that'll push people around and think they can get away with it. Yeah. And that's you know, we can point this at us as parents. Now, I'm not a parent. I'm a parent, but it's a little late. You know, once they grow up, you can only give them advice. You know, but when they're real young, you can tell them what to do. But if you fail, you're going to end up with a problem, and that's something you have to deal with. Now it says he's a goodly man. The word goodly in verse 6 is tov, and it means beautiful, best, merry, prosperous. See, he's Prince Charming. This is Prince Charming. He's a good-looking dude, and he's very prosperous. Now, verse 7, Adonijah causes a coup in the government. Did you notice it's in the government?
Yes.
Because it was the priest. He split the priest apart. One priest went one way, and the other priest went another way. Okay? One scribe went one way, one went another way. Okay? One chief officer went one way, one went the other way. Abiathar means father of abundance, and Joab means Jehovah Father. Now, it says in verse 8 that Zadok, the priest, did not go with Adonijah. And Zadok means righteous or justified. And also and Benaniah, the son of Jehoiada. Benaniah means God has built. Now, this man, Benaniah, we found out reading earlier that he was the chief bodyguard of David. He was the bodyguard of David. He had men that surrounded him. And no matter where David went, Benaniah went and protected him. Of course, now he's just protecting the grounds of Jerusalem because David hadn't been going anywhere.
Right.
And then we find that a couple other people, Jehoiada means Jehovah known. Nathan means given. And Shimei means famous. Now, this isn't the Shimei. Remember we read in 2 Samuel where Shimei was throwing dirt and cursing. He was killed in the last couple. David's sons killed this guy. Well, actually, Solomon. Well, we're going to find that out later. Okay, let's keep going. That's not the Shimei, though, we're talking about there. Okay, so now these are the army leaders and the priest. Now, I'm going to point out, these were either not approached by Adonijah knowing that they wouldn't follow, or they just refused. Okay, so we really don't know. Now, it's interesting here when we go to where he says that Adonijah went and he threw a gigantic barbecue party. He killed sheep and oxen and fatted cattle, and he fed everybody. Now, that's a good way to make people happy.
Yes.
Feed them. You know? And it's said that he went to by a place called Zoheleth. Now, Zoheleth means crawling serpent. And it says it's by Enrogel, which means the fountain of the traveler. So this was by a fountain. It was where they made this big sacrifice. And fountains, when you find them in the Bible, they say fountains, they're oases. Because it's all desert area. And then they have these beautiful places with trees and places to hang out. And that's what this place was. It was a fountain there where people could get water and get refreshment. It was east of Jerusalem. It was below the Valley of Hinnom. And to this day, there's a deep well there that's 125 feet deep. Okay? And so he throws this big party. And again, we see it today in politics. All these conventions and everything where you have to buy a plate for $1,000 or whatever. You know, they're promoting something, and here we see it in the Bible as well. Things never change, it seems. You know? It's the same old, same old.
Yep.
Somebody trying to overthrow somebody else. In our government, we try to overthrow them by getting into office. So, let's pray somebody gets into office to overthrow these people. I'm talking about all of them. I don't want to bring politics into this. All right, let's go to chapter number 3. Lesson 1, chapter 1, number 3, verse 10. I can figure out how long I've been going. Okay, thank you. But Nathan the prophet, this is Nathan and Bathsheba plot against Adonijah. Now remember, Bathsheba is Adonijah's mom. Okay?
Right.
But Nathan the prophet and Benaiah and the mighty men of Solomon, his brother, he called not. Wherefore Nathan spake unto Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, Hast thou not heard that Adonijah the son of Haggith doth reign, and David our Lord knoweth it not? Now therefore come, let me, I pray thee, give thee counsel, that thou mayest save thine own life, and the life of thy son Solomon. Go and get thee into the king David, and say unto him, Didst not thou, my lord, O king, swear unto thine handmaiden, saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. Why then does Adonijah reign? Behold, while thou yet talkest there with the king, I will also come in after thee and confirm the words. Okay, so here Bathsheba is realizing she wants her first son, Solomon, to be king, not the son of somebody else. Now, I made a mistake earlier saying that she was the mother of this guy. She's not. Okay? Solomon was her firstborn. Remember, she had a son that died first.
Right.
And then God gave her Solomon, and God did promise David that the throne would be given to Solomon. But she also knows if Adonijah becomes king, that Solomon's going to be killed. Solomon will be killed by Adonijah. Because you can't have the boy king and the boy king.
Right.
Right? There can't be no two boy kings. So, now, it's kind of like here, it says here that these certain people were not invited. It's a rift in government. It's like not inviting certain people to certain things, you know.
Right.
Not even the brothers were invited, you know. Now, Nathan, knowing what was going on, goes to Solomon's mom, Queen Bathsheba, informing her of Adonijah's shenanigans, what he's doing, you know. And Adonijah actually becomes king. See, that's the thing is, when he had that party, he announced himself to be king. If Adonijah actually becomes king, Bathsheba would be doomed. Now, Nathan's a prophet. He knows the Lord's will and tells Bathsheba to go speak to David and remind him of what God said. Sometimes we need to be reminded of what God has said.
Amen.
And it doesn't look good. And here he is, this guy's taking over. He's already taken over the kingdom. But what did God say?
Amen.
What did the Word of God say? You can put that in your own life. You say, well, you know, this and that and this and that. But what does God say?
That's so
Okay. Nathan plans on coming in while she's speaking to David to confirm. It said in verse 14. And that word confirm is male, M-A-L-E, which means to fulfill or accomplish something. And having a confirmation from a holy man makes you believe it.
Amen.
You know? All right, let's go to verse 15. I've got some time here. Bathsheba pleads with David. Verse 15. And Bathsheba went in unto the king, unto the chamber. And the king was very old. And Abishag, the Shunammite, ministered unto the king. And Bathsheba bowed and did obeisance unto the king. And the king said, What wouldest thou? And she said unto him, My lord, thou swearest by the Lord thy God unto thine handmaid, saying, Assuredly, Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon thine throne. Now, behold, Adonijah reigneth, and now my lord the king knowest it not. And he hath slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance, and hath called all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the captain of the host, But Solomon thy servant he called not. And thou, my lord, O king, the eyes of all Israel are upon thee, that thou shouldest tell them who shall sit on the throne of my lord the king after him. Otherwise it shall come to pass, when my lord the king shall sleep with his fathers, that I and my son Solomon shall be counted offenders. Okay, we'll stop there. So Bathsheba heeds the word of Nathan and goes into the king while Abishag is taking care of him. Of course, she comes in there obediently. Obeisance means she's bowing. And she comes into his bedchamber. And, you know, it looks like a nursing home of a royal person. It really does. There's a nurse there. He's not telling people what to do anymore.
Right.
And they're worried about it, of course. And so she shares with David what Nathan had told her. And of course, he asks what she wants. And Bathsheba repeats what Nathan had told her. And then she tells him about the son that's overthrowing his government.
Right.
And told about the huge party that he was throwing. But she also told him that everyone was waiting for you, David, to tell us the truth. Is this the king who would sit on the throne? And then she told him, but God promised that it would be Solomon. Now, if David died, she told Solomon that they would be criminals.
Right.
They would be considered criminals if David died and this continued. All right, that gets us to verse 22. Nathan confirms her plea. And lo, while she was yet talking with the king, Nathan the prophet came in also. And they told the king, saying, behold, Nathan the prophet. And he was come in before the king, and bowed himself before the king with his face to the ground. And Nathan said, my lord, O king, hast thou said, Adonijah shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne? For he has gone down this day, and slain oxen and fat cattle and sheep in abundance, and hath called all the king's sons and captains of the host, Abiathar the priest, and behold, they eat and drink before him, and say, God save King Adonijah. But me, even thy servant, and Zadok the priest, and Benaniah the son of Jehoiada, thy servant Solomon hath he not called. Is this thing done by my lord the king, and hast thou not shown it unto thy servant, who would sit on the throne of my lord the king after him? All right, I'm going to stop there. So, humbly as planned, here comes Nathan. They got this plan together. And the question in verse 24, he just asked him, king, did you appoint Adonijah?
Right.
And then he reiterated what Bathsheba had told David. And he had, yes?
I was going to say, now I know that he went in there asking him a question. And the reason I say that is because he knew probably that David didn't know, but he couldn't tell him that David didn't know. He had to ask it in a way because he's still king, and
Right.
you had to hold that respect and like, you know, did you do this? He couldn't just come barreling in there and say, hey, by the way, did you know what's going on over here?
Yeah, and what had happened if David had done these things, had appointed Adonijah? Nathan would have been dirt, because he wasn't invited to Adonijah's party, all right?
Right.
So, now, verse 26, it says, but we weren't invited. He says, the high priest wasn't invited, the commander of the royal guard wasn't invited, the Cherethites and the Pelethites, which are royal assassins, were not invited.
Right.
Okay?
The royal assassins, I like it.
Yeah, the royal assassins. He's got royal assassins. Yes, he does. They're called Cherethites and Pelethites. And then he asked another question. I like in verse 27. He says, aren't you the one who makes decisions around here? Right?
Somebody forgot.
Yes, somebody. You know, aren't you the one that makes decisions concerning your kingdom? All right. I can't get too far. I'll get into this other flyer here. Huh? I got 5 minutes. I don't have time to get into my flyer. Okay, so let's keep going. David makes Solomon king. Then David answered and said, "Call me Bathsheba." And she came into the king's presence and stood before the king. And the king sware and said, "As the Lord liveth, that hath redeemed my soul out of all distress, even as I swear unto thee by the Lord God of Israel, saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne in my stead. Even so I certainly do this day." Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the earth and did reverence to the king and said, "Let my lord, King David, live forever." And King David said, "Call me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada." And they came before the king, and king also said unto them, "Take with you the servants of my lord, and cause Solomon my son to ride upon mine own mule, and bring him down to Gihon. And let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there king over Israel, and blow ye with the trumpet, and say, God save King Solomon. Then ye shall come up after him, that he may come and sit upon my throne, for he shall be king in my stead. I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and over Judah."
Amen.
All right. Now, David, even though he was old, he still had his mind. He was still keen up here because he realized that the king, that he was the one that had to make these decisions. I like in verse 29 how they approached the king. "As the Lord liveth." You know we only have one God we can say that about?
Yes.
That's it.
"As the Lord liveth."
Amen.
He has redeemed my soul from all distresses. The word redeemed there is H-A-Y, and it means rescue or ransom. God has paid the price for you so that that your soul can be redeemed out of all distresses. And how many distresses?
Oh.
All distresses. The word here in Hebrew is Sarah, S-A-R-A. Trouble, affliction, tribulation, and anguish. You know God delivers us from all those things?
Yes.
You know, and when we get in distress, I know sometimes we don't call on the Lord the way we should.
Amen.
You know, because He does deliver us from all of our troubles. Now, He doesn't take us out of those troubles. He lets us go through them. He delivers us through them.
Amen.
That's what it says. Okay. Now, he recalled the promise David had made in 2 Samuel 12, 24 and 25, and also in 1 Chronicles 22, 9 through 10. Now, we're not studying 1st and 2nd Chronicles, but it does tie in with these books.
I know, I was reading that.
Yeah, you can visualize in your mind what happened here. In the court of a king, Bathsheba comes bowing. And she hears the words of her fate, because if he had said the other opposite, it wouldn't have been very good. So he calls the priests together and his bodyguards, and he tells Solomon to put Solomon on a mule. Now, I have a handout I'm not going to hand out. In fact, y'all have to come back next week to find out why I did this. Ass, i.e. donkey. Okay? So y'all have to come back next week to see me talk about the ass, i.e. donkey. All right? There's a bunch of, before we go on to that, but there's a bunch of places in the Bible where donkeys were used in importance. And you think about it, Christ rode into Jerusalem on a donkey.
Yeah.
The donkey was a royal animal, not like we have today. And I shouldn't even talk about it. We'll talk about my handout next week because I don't have enough time. Okay, so we'll go ahead and talk about that next week. So let me point off where I'm at. where I won't forget, we are on lesson 6, and I'm going to be talking about the donkey. All right, God bless you.
Amen.